Frankly, I I am really, really professionally getting sick and tired of the taco meme.
Yeah.
Trump always chickens out.
Yeah.
It's constantly used
Yeah.
by people who don't understand how many risks he has taken. Genuinely, I mean, he was nearly assassinated. For example, right? How many times he has come close to things that would be catastrophic if they went wrong, but he's prepared to roll the dice to see if they go right. Now, that doesn't mean everything he touches is golden, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, that was a staggeringly audacious move. And to rewind back to where we were, it, to a degree, has reset the board. It has reset the board.
It has completely reset the board.
Yeah. Also, by the way, and I don't want to start getting into any kind of conspiracy theory territory here. I'm quite measured on everything I say, or I try to be measured, even if I'm flippant. If you read some of the reports on the ground from what people saw happening there, they're referring to new weapons that, frankly, we've only heard mentioned in terms of like Havana syndrome, which, by the way, all the information knows that is now pointing to being a Russian weapon, actually, that does exist.
It's funny. I just had a conversation with somebody who knows exactly about that about a month ago.
So again, this is something you're not going to get on the front page of the FT. And if you're reading Bloomberg, the FT, and Wall Street Journal only, and you think you know what's going on in the world, I can assure you, you don't. But directed energy beams, to take people out, one wonders how much else there is in the tank that hasn't been used yet and is constantly being alluded to. And that can only help the US geostrategic position. And to bring it back down to markets, because that's what you do. You manage money. I talk to people who manage money or who run large firms and small firms and are trying to manage their money within that envelope, to make sure that the firm doesn't lose more on its FX position in a year than it makes on growing crop A, B, or C, which is a real risk, for firms if you don't watch markets. That cannot be anything but good for the US, even if the dollar has a down week, a down day, or a down month, because the US wants it to.
Yeah.
It's just, the reality is, as you always keep saying, it's all about power, and it is all about power.
So, Michael, we've been talking for about an hour. I don't know if you have any more time, but I've got an additional question that I definitely want to discuss if you have a few more minutes.
In for a penny, in for a pound, as we say in the UK.
Okay, good. Well, you just brought up the dollar, and it's hard to believe we've been talking for an hour, and that's the first time either one of us said anything about the dollar. But the dollar is essentially all about power. I mean, it is a weapon both domestically and internationally. And I've gone on record several times saying that money is a weapon, and it is perhaps the United States' greatest weapon. But we have not talked yet about stablecoins, and I'm of the belief. Listen, thank God I finally saw it. That's all I'm going to say, because stablecoins are not new. They've been around for 10 years or whatever it is, and I made an almost unforgivable mistake. And I'll use this as an example for anybody else living or listening of not to do this. When stablecoins first kind of came out, I studied them pretty hard, and I looked at them, and I did not like, that's an emotional word, which you should not use when, looking at investments, but I did not like some of the people and some of the firms that were involved with stablecoins. And as a result, I let my dislike for the people involved influence my decision to ignore the technology involved. And so, I kind of went down the rabbit hole on stablecoins a couple different times, and I just didn't like it. And so I put it aside. And what made me take a third look at it was the passage of the Genius Act, and the United States, from a state perspective, essentially sanctioned, or saying these are good, we like them, we are going to incorporate this technology going forward. And I was like, why are they doing that, right? And so I went back down the rabbit hole, and I started thinking about it, and I started looking at it, and oh my God, I think the US dollar stablecoins have the potential to be the biggest game changer of all.
Yes.
Because I think it is literally a stealth weapon that 99% of the people in the world don't understand how it could be used. And the few that do understand how it could be used are misdiagnosing the extent to which the other 99% will adopt it. I think the people that really understand it have some really good reasons why it should not be adopted. I think that they are such a small group. And I think they're misdiagnosing what the other 99% of the people in the world will do given the opportunity to use these things. And I think I'm very glad that I went back down the rabbit hole again, because I don't know that I'm right. It's very possible. I always have to say it's possible that I'm wrong. But if I am right, and if I'm even a little bit right, this has the potential to be an enormous impact on not just economics, but geopolitics over the next 5 or 10 years. So anyway, that's what I want to talk to you about. If you've got any thoughts,
no,
share.
Of course. Well, look, again, we were on a parallel path here. That I hated crypto from day one. I may even have made the joke with you. I made it with many others. I called it crapto, imprint, because for me, it was all monkeys in sunglasses nonsense. And I kept saying to people, what's it for? Going back to my shtick, what's it for? And they're like, well, you can make money from it. Great. Okay. You can make money from selling drugs. You can make money from anything. What's it actually for? What social good is there? And briefly, of course, we came to the point where it was nearly banned completely, because under the Biden admin, at one point, so many people were flipping NFTs and pictures of monkeys in sunglasses. People weren't turning up for work to flip burgers. And it's like, okay, great. Let's just disrupt the entire labor force where everyone sits at home speculating and no one produces anything. It's like the madness of neoliberal economics taken to its furthest extreme. It's like, yeah, we're all millionaires. No one does anything. We all just sell pictures of monkeys in sunglasses to each other. I can't tell you how ridiculous the concept was. Then, again, with the same path as yourself, the Genius Act, I realized, no, I see what they're for. Dollar stablecoins are part of this Trumpian reverse perestroika and economic statecraft. And I'll be blunt, the tech side of it doesn't interest me at all. I'm quite a Luddite. If people tell me the technology works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't need to know how it works in the middle. Not my bag, okay? Not at all. What I'm interested in is the balance sheets, because from the very outset, again, my first principle is kind of like a spider sense was tingling. I'm like, hang on, if this works the way I think it can work, it's the equivalent of talking to someone who understands Newtonian physics and bringing in Einsteinian physics and quantum theory and quantum dynamics and or the nuclear process, which, you know, at the beginning of the 20th century was happening. Some people were talking about splitting the atom when others were still talking about the movement of celestial bodies. You're on two different planes of existence in conceptually. And one of them had the power to kick the other one's butt. And it really did, as we saw with the Manhattan Project. And stablecoins are similar because it's a way to basically maintain dollar global hegemony without the Triffin paradox. You don't have that problem that everyone demanding dollars as part of the milkshake, which of course you're, you know, incredibly and rightly famous for, and which I found very influential to my thinking. You don't have that in the same way if effectively you have a new instrument, which is a token for a dollar rather than a dollar, but is treated as a dollar, but it isn't a dollar and exists on a separate balance sheet and exists outside the banking system as a separate liability, potentially, and which is adopted globally and which America still controls, but without going through all the paperwork that it has now. It's absolute. I mean, I'd have to draw it to show sketches to people in terms of the balance sheet. You can't describe it verbally, but the balance sheets change, the flows change, and you go 3 dimensions rather than 2, and you basically entrench American power in a whole new dimension. It's staggering what they could achieve. And again, very, very few people get it. But what I'll say is this. In the same way in 2024, I said 2025 is going to be a shocker because we'll get economic statecraft, and we did. And everyone is still kind of hung up on Liberation Day tariffs. And I said, this is just the beginning. Well, now we've got Venezuela. Now we've got Iran. That's still just the beginning. when we get the control of the Fed and when we get stable coins, that's when the real rubber hits the road.
Yeah, and for anybody listening who is not already kind of, familiar with this topic or hasn't studied it, there is no way that Michael and I can dig into all of this today. That's just impossible.